Hi, everyone. Welcome to Green Shoots. I'm Ryan Ballengee. Jonathan Marsico is with us. He is one of the co-founders of Sticks. We kind of just want to have him on to talk about kind of state of golf travel world, which obviously is a booming part of the golf industry these days. And then Southwest goes and changes their business model and starts charging for bags. And all of a sudden, there's an even other reason to go use Sticks. So, Jonathan, first, thanks for being with us. Outside of Southwest making its changes, how are things going with Sticks, and how have you guys boomed with the golf travel boom?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on, Ryan. Appreciate your time. So just rewinding it back a little bit, just for some of your listeners to get a real sense of where we started from and where we are today. Going back to 2012, we were trying to create an effortless way to travel. And how can you do that? What's annoying? We're all golfers. We all have personal lives. We all have professional lives, and golf is a big piece of that. But at the same time, we have to do it more efficiently. So we really wanted to create a service that would enable effortless golf travel. Over the course of the last 10 plus years, we've, starting in golf, really just followed our customer and following our customer, which started with golf, then got into luggage, then got into skis and other niche verticals as kids going to camp and university and international travel. But the core competency is enabling effortless travel by, not having to get to the airport as early, being able to stand by for flights more efficiently, not stuck at the oversized and or just traditional luggage carrier when you're waiting for your bags 20, 30, 40 minutes in some cases, getting smaller Ubers or rental cars. Like that was sort of like our value chain when we started, and it really hasn't changed. So as we sort of, to your question, how's the golf travel business? As you can imagine, golf grew, as you imagine, golf grew during COVID, 2021, even into 22, nicely. With that said, nobody was traveling. So as we've sort of seen that being an interesting time for a business, of course, now seeing sort of the benefits of that, right? Not only are there our core golfers that have been with us and been in the game for decades now, but this new wave of younger, more experiential, focused, younger demographic of golfers that want to play golf, want to travel, and want to do it efficiently. So it's really sort of, I would say, in 2023 through today, we've seen continued multi-digit growth within our core business, that being Sticks. Golfers are wanting to go on those bucket list trips. Some of our best partners, whether it's Pebble Beach or Bandon Dunes or Streamsong and other of the top domestic properties and destinations, but as well as the international, the tour operators going to Scotland, going to Ireland. I think not only due to pent up demand, but I think as you led with, Ryan, the new golfer who wants to experience, what golf trips are, and what these bucket list courses and destinations are all about. And most importantly, doing it with their pals and, creating a broader experience around it.
The golf travel kind of boom has created not that these places weren't bucket list trips before, but it feels like there are more of them maybe than there have been, right? More options for those types of things. And prices have gone up because demand's gone up, right? So have people kind of thought, okay, maybe 10 years ago, a golf trip was maybe a little bit more budget conscious for some people. Now that they know it's a little bit more of a premium price, a little bit more of a premium experience, well, they might as well add on the premium components to it too to make it as seamless, as convenient as possible, and not nickel and dime themselves to save a few bucks here and there.
Yeah. So I think you're right. But I'd also point out, and especially alluded to Southwest, when you're checking multiple bags with airlines, right? It's $35 for the first one, 50 for the second, and in some cases 150 for the third,
Yeah.
or even more than 50 if it's an oversized bag. So we are relatively competitive economically with the airlines. Like you can ship with us from a ground service from like $59. So it is competitive, but that added on convenience, that added on experience of really having that white glove concierge service enable that effortless travel, which ultimately might save you money down the line, meaning you aren't getting as big a Uber, you aren't getting as big of a rental car. You don't have to, apply different capacity issues because you aren't traveling with your bag. You're putting your backpack on and your bags are waiting for you at the golf course and or the hotel or rental home that you are. So I think budgets have changed. They've had to change given the demand at a lot of these resorts. With that said, we are relatively competitive with the airlines. We ultimately think we differentiate on service and experience. But, one of the big things we had heard is, a lot of reasons, a reason that, people at different times wouldn't use our services. Oh, I use you when I fly other airlines. But, when I fly Southwest, when they're completely free, I choose to drag them with me. Well, as of yesterday, the big announcement, May 28th, Southwest will be charging for bags. So I think, hopefully it's a little, wind at our back from giving now a customer a more of an economic way to travel, or at least more competitive with all airlines. But with that said, I think the experience based, of traveling without, checking bags is really ultimately where we think we can differentiate.
And we've talked so far about the value to the consumer, but what about the value to those partner resorts in terms of the convenience that they can offer to their customers, saying, hey, you don't have to drag that thing back to the airport or put it in a trunk or, whatever way you got to transport. We'll take care of that for you. How has that been a value add for them?
Yeah, I think, all these resorts and all of our partners, they're always trying to do what's best for the customer, what's most convenient, and how to elevate their experience. So I think being able to have a service that's a really value add service to their existing great experience on property, it has been meaningful, and I think has hopefully continued to help and elevate those resorts and our partners from, just encapsulating the overall experience. With that said, some of our early wins from a partner perspective and wins being able to help out the customer, would you think of more cumbersome places to go travel? When you think, Bandon Dunes or Pebble Beach or, some other harder to get to places. Well, if you're flying to Bandon Dunes, a lot of cases connect through San Francisco. You take a little puddle jumper over to Bandon or North Bend. And a lot of times, given those weight capacities, the airlines are leaving those bags intentionally because they're overweight for the plane.
Yeah.
So then a lot of customers, that are going to Bandon or going to Pebble, they're getting there and their clubs aren't there. So in some cases, it was really a customer delight that you needed people going on these bucket list trips. They have to show up with their golf clubs, and we were part of the story and helping enable that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and I should have brought it up in that a lot of these places are far flung, and there are more of them that are far flung. They're not in metro areas. They're where the acreage is, and the acreage is in the country, so to speak. So to get there, it's not a direct flight, or if it is a direct flight, it's a direct flight plus a long drive. So it's not a straight shot component, and that where the convenience kind of comes in.
That's it. That's it. And listen, I think between our team, from a customer service, and the customers have one single point of contact. So we are using the global logistics providers, but nobody's on hold with their 1-800 numbers. They're calling us. There's a dedicated resource. We're always available and really proactively tracking and being able to, in different times, upgrade different service. So it's not only the convenience, but when the bag's actually in transit, there's a lot of tools and tactics we use to make sure it's delivered and delivered on time in line with the expectations of our customers.
Has anything changed from the supplier end of things? I mean, you guys are kind of you're looking for the best rate available to the consumer and to be able to pass along that to them. Has anything changed on the shipping and logistics side in the last few years that, whether because of golf or otherwise, that has made your job more interesting, more difficult, to try to deliver that value?
Yeah, from a core, not really. We still use the three largest global logistics providers, that being FedEx, UPS, and DHL. With that said, there's more first mile and last mile movements that we do. Like, again, a little bit more of like that concierge. I use the term white glove, but people want their bags at a specified time.
Yeah.
I want it at 11 a.m. versus your traditional logistics 9 to 1 p.m. window.
Yeah.
Or different windows. So that's kind of first mile, last mile. And we have a great network of, we'll say, broader couriers that help us support that. And then we're really, from a product and experience side, starting to evaluate more of, I would say, that pure on demand ability to have your bag picked up 7 minutes later if you want it, or delivered at a specified time and place. So that first mile, last mile is evolving as innovation evolves throughout the whole industry and really our whole lives, but specifically with our core logistics, not necessarily.
How much of that first mile, last mile logistics stuff, and I know this is kind of geeky for people listening, but I'm interested in logistics. How much of that is driven by broader consumer preference, like the Amazons of the world of, hey, we can get you this thing in an hour, and we've got a great last mile kind of piece of that? And how much of that is just driven by the logistics providers wanting to offer an enhanced level of service that just keeps them competitive?
Yeah. So most all of the first mile, last mile is really done outside of the core logistics providers. So it's really us just understanding the needs of our customers and
Mm.
wanting that on demand type experience or type service. Given we're ultimately creating efficiency through travel, but some people want elevated efficiency. So it's a little bit mostly demand from our customers, and then also on the recovery side. So if a bag is delayed, I use the term recovery, then we'll use a last mile because we know FedEx or UPS or DHL might not deliver till the afternoon, but we can go, grab the bag ourselves from our courier network, then ultimately deliver it on time or to a specified time if something was, going to be potentially delayed. So it's mostly, customer driven, but also we use the term recovery, but it's just making sure that the bag is where it needs to be as well.
How has that build out worked for you all within Shipsticks and skis and luggage of building out that network, identifying those couriers, finding reliable people, kind of getting rid of the less reliable people? How has that kind of worked on your end and in trying to make all that work in concert with those kind of three, that big three?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think it's worked seamlessly, but being in the business now for 13 years, our operations is really kind of the backbone of our business, customer service. So we have a lot of history, and now technology is making it easier to have a more scaled approach than knowing, hey, we use this courier service in Monterey and we use this one in Hilton Head, which we still do, but at the
Yeah.
same time, there's more broader, platforms and partners that we can use that, cover a wider geographic area. So technology's, evolved that process, but it is a little still manual, and that's part of I think the charm and probably our success as well. Hopefully, with it.
Yeah, I kind of get the sense that, we obviously have a very tech-driven world, right? And we're moving in that path with AI to whatever degree that turns out to be. But that there's still a whole lot of room in the world for personal, what feels like personalized one-on-one, just for you service. And that they're almost kind of working to get, we're pulling at extremes. We're pulling toward those extremes of either super automated or very personalized. Does that seem fair to say?
It is, and I think when you look at our customers, especially the customers, the newer people to golf, right, younger, they're more apt to use technology. They don't
Yeah.
want to talk to people, so like they are on different ends of the spectrum. Because I'm thinking of my dad, who's in his middle 70s, and he uses the service a lot, but he wants to talk to somebody and make sure that it is how he thinks it is, and he has the full information from someone's mouth versus through technology, through our app, which we do a great job supporting too. So we'd like to think we have the ability to meet you where you want to be met at, meaning if you want technology to be your single point of contact or your main point of contact, or if you want that one-on-one service, we kind of offer that across the spectrum to really kind of meet the customer based on their needs and preferences.
Well, Jonathan, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. Shipsticks.com is where golfers are going to be going to get their Shipsticks fix if they haven't used it before. And I've been a customer multiple times and have had great experiences, so I will absolutely vouch for Shipsticks being super convenient and saving me a couple of times when I really needed it. So thank you for coming on and talking with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Appreciate the time.